Should Howie Roseman, because this would go right in line with what happened to getting younger and getting more cost effective. Acquiring Aaron Rodgers is neither of those two things, but it would make you a better football team immediately.
Oh, they're going to the playoffs with Aaron Rodgers.
Well, then how aggressive should Howie Roseman be in badgering the Green Bay Packers about Aaron Rodgers' availability? You've got your Mac guys here on Birds 365 on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. Thanks for punching us up here, Eagles fans, and we'll continue the conversation for another hour, including adding an ex-Philadelphia football player now toiling away down in Carolina. Details coming up on that. Johnny Mac, I did want to get into this here off our conversation that we had with Scott. You brought up with him something you brought up with other guests before. Why did the Eagles, when they say it's going to be a transition period and they say they're going to get younger and maybe a little bit more cost effective, then they bring in veteran guys to just kind of fill in the blanks and hold the fort down, plug the holes in the dam, use whatever analogy you want. I don't think they've really been that bad at that this year. Getting Ryan Kerrigan on a cheap one-year deal, is it really going to shortchange Josh Sweat snaps? I think they can make their decision on Josh Sweat going forward. I've already made mine on some of the guys on the defensive line, and I think they need to go in another direction, but that's going to be handled in the draft, I would guess, next year and the year after. But I digress. The reason I'm asking this question, I love one of your phrases, an FU player. If a guy is just so good, it's FU to anybody else that you have in that position at that time. Go get that guy. What about that guy, Aaron Rodgers? We are now another week down the road of the infighting between Rodgers and the Packers. The Packers still haven't said if they're ever going to make him available for trade. But Aaron Rodgers is pretty much dug in his heels. I don't think he wants any part of playing with the Green Bay Packers. He wants to be dealt. If the Packers come to the realization that they have to deal him and get on with their lives past Aaron Rodgers, I know Philadelphia is right now not a destination that a guy who's trying to add his second Super Bowl ring would be looking at. But if nobody else is out there is willing to pay the price, the Eagles do have what it takes to get an Aaron Rodgers deal done, which is immediate draft capital, immediate draft first-round capital. Should Howie Roseman be making that weekly call to Green Bay just as, I got 3 first-round picks. Carson Wentz is going to play enough plays in Indianapolis. Then we're going to get that cold first-round pick. I got ours, which might not be great this year. I got Miami's, which is to be determined. I got the Colts. Did you see how bad Carson Wentz was for us last year? They got 3 first-round picks and, of course, future first-round picks. Should Howie Roseman, because this would go right in line with what happened to getting younger and getting more cost effective. Acquiring Aaron Rodgers is neither of those two things, but it would make you a better football team immediately.
Oh, they're going to the playoffs with Aaron Rodgers.
Well, then how aggressive should Howie Roseman be in badgering the Green Bay Packers about Aaron Rodgers' availability?
Well, a couple things. He is an FU player, so yeah, I would say do it. Obviously, they don't have the cap space to do it, number one. So they would have to jump through a lot of hoops from that perspective. So the biggest part is he wouldn't want to play here. He wants to be really on the West Coast. I think he would accept Denver. But we don't know with Aaron Rodgers. So part is you got to make him the highest paid player. You got to redo his deal. So the salary cap is a huge part of it. The fact he doesn't want to be on the East Coast is a huge part of it. So I don't think it's a possibility. But yeah, if you can add a player, I've said that about any NFL team. If you can add Aaron Rodgers, except maybe Kansas City, you do it. You do it. He's that much better than everybody else. The NFL, we talk about these windows. The NFL's 2-3 year windows at the most now anyway. So people are talking about his age and about a decade down the line. Carson Wentz was going to be here
Yeah.
for a decade. Doesn't work that way. 2 or 3 years, max window, and then you move on to the next window. So from just a purely football perspective, yeah, I want Aaron Rodgers. I always want Aaron Rodgers. Anybody who's ever listened to me knows how much respect I have for the way he plays this game and how good he is. Yeah, but it just doesn't fit. And going back all the way back to your first point, I agree with you, Jody. I have no problem with the Ryan Kerrigan deal. And when I say changing philosophy, it has to do, they were serious about Julio Jones. Let me make that clear. They were serious about acquiring Julio Jones. So it's not only what you get accomplished, it's what you're trying to get accomplished as well. I don't think Julio Jones makes much sense for them at this point because of his age, his position, his expense, all of those things. Even though he's a great player, obviously wide receiver is not as valuable as quarterback. So there's a few more curveballs thrown in. But it tells you something about the Eagles' sentiment, their mentality, how they're moving forward when they're making calls about a Julio Jones.
Right.
And that's more of what I mean.
And if Harry Roseman didn't make a call just to inquire, I'd be quite disappointed in him. Anytime a superstar player becomes obviously available on the open market, you just inquire to find out what exactly the cost is going to be. And I would say that they might have been serious, but not all that serious, because we saw the price of
can't get everybody.
For.
Like, one thing I always criticize fans for is the assumption that your team can do whatever they want. In other words, if they wanted Julio Jones, they could have gotten Julio Jones. Now, if they wanted Stephon Diggs last year, perfect example, because I heard this from so many Eagles fans. You got to go get Stephon Diggs. Well, Minnesota wasn't trading Stephon Diggs in the conference. They wanted him out of the conference. It wasn't possible. Just because you think it can be done doesn't mean it can be done. There are 31 other teams in this league trying to get stuff accomplished as well. Sometimes you can't do what you want to do. That's just the reality of pro sports.
Understood.
Sixers with James Harden. Sixers, I got news for you. I heard this from 2 different people really close to that team. Oh, they would have pulled the trigger on James Harden. That had more to do with Houston having angst toward Daryl Morey, and they didn't want to deal with the Sixers unless they had to, and they got a deal that was acceptable from them for Brooklyn. A lot of Sixers fans at the time were like, you can't give up Ben Simmons. You can't give up Thibault. They would have gave them all up to get James Harden, and they would have made the right decision. They would have brought in Kyle Lowry if they could have. They couldn't get it done. And it ended up where they tried. Oh, they tried.
All right, but are you suggesting that because the Eagles played the Falcons the first game of the season this year, that if the Eagles offered a better deal, and it wouldn't have taken much to get, again,
no.
Let me finish here, John. A second-round pick that the Titans put up as compared to the Eagles' second-round pick. Yeah, I know they did the 4th for the 6th move-up thing, but the Eagles could have put what the Titans offered on the board, and it would have had more value because the Eagles project to be a lesser team than the Titans project to be. That the Atlanta Falcons wouldn't want to do the deal with the Eagles because they play them week 1.
No,
I'm not understanding your point about the Falcons might not want to trade him to the Eagles. Why?
I didn't say that. I was using Stephon Diggs as an example. Minnesota didn't want to trade Stephon Diggs in the conference. So when fans would tell me, you got to go get out Stephon Diggs, well, the Eagles weren't in the conversation. They didn't want to trade him inside the conference. Now, you could say, can you pay a penalty to make them change their mind? Maybe. Could the Eagles have done that to Atlanta? Maybe. What I'm saying is the Eagles had serious interest in Julio Jones. That doesn't mean, if you're offering a second-round pick, we're going to offer a better second-round pick. That doesn't mean we're going to offer a first-round pick. No, it means they had their limits, and obviously it went above their limits to try to get that player, because remember, they also would have had to do some salary cap calisthenics as well, just like we were talking about with Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
But, no, Atlanta, say it's Tampa Bay. Now, Tampa Bay doesn't need a receiver, but it's obviously somebody in the division. New Orleans, Carolina, we're going to have Colin Thompson on. They would have to pay a premium over what the Eagles would do because they're out of division. Out of conference is better than out of division, and so forth and so on. You always prefer to get a player like that out of conference at least, so he doesn't come back to haunt you. But sure, trades happen intra-conference all the time. You usually have to pay a bit of a premium for it.
Right. But a premium to me would have been the Eagles pick in the second round is going to be better than the Titans pick. And if I'm the general manager,
and maybe they didn't want to give that up. Maybe they didn't want to give that up.
Well, then how much did they really want Julio Jones? You tell me they wanted to steal Julio Jones just because they made a phone call and inquired on it? If they weren't willing to do a second-round pick,
look,
and
Jody, you're talking about definition.
Then I
about definition.
Saying that Howie Roseman was really interested in getting Julio Jones. No, he wasn't.
All right. Well, I was told the Eagles had serious interest in Julio Jones. Now, because that doesn't reach your level of serious interest, that's fine. That's fine. That doesn't mean when you say when an agent or somebody in my profession or a team source tells you somebody has serious interest, that doesn't mean they're going to do anything humanly possible to acquire a player. If that's your definition, that's fine.
Well,
no, that's not their definition.
Here's my definition. See if you can comprehend this. We know what Julio Jones was traded for: a second-round pick and a swap of a fourth and the sixth-round pick. So to be really interested, don't you need to put at least that on the table? My evaluation of Julio Jones and what he did this year injured and what he's got left in the tank, I don't think the Titans paid an outrageous price to get Julio Jones. And if the Eagles were, again, my definition, seriously interested in Julio Jones, you have to at least be able to match the offer that the Titans did. And they didn't. So therefore, in my estimation, the Eagles weren't seriously interested. They might have been peripherally interested in Julio Jones. But when a deal comes down and you have that deal to evaluate and you could put a better deal on the table and you didn't, that takes them out of the conversation, at least from my perspective, of being seriously interested in the guy.
Well, how does your perspective factor in what Terry Fontenot wants? Because I don't know what Terry Fontenot wants. I don't know what the Eagles offer. I was told they had significant interest. I don't know what Terry Fontenot wants. I don't know what his end game is. I think he would assume he wanted to keep Julio Jones, but couldn't. Maybe he did want him out of conference, just like Minnesota wanted Stephon Diggs out of conference. I don't know that. But again, this is what I'm talking about with fans. You're going down the same rabbit hole. You're assuming, Jody, that there is no other part to the equation. It's just the Eagles. It's not just the Eagles. Atlanta's involved as well. What did they want to accomplish from that trade? I don't know.
Here's what I know just about sports in general. And I don't know Terry Fontenot. I've never met Terry Fontenot. I've never even interviewed Terry Fontenot. So I don't really know what Terry Fontenot was attempting to accomplish. But here's what I do know about sports, having covered it for over 30 years. When a deal gets done, when you declare what you wanted to do by actually making a trade, which Tennessee did, I would think 99 out of 100 general managers would prefer a deal where they got a little bit more. That your main objective would be, if you pulled the trigger on a deal for whatever reasons, the discontent nature of the player, the fact that you want to get your organization the ability to move on and start a season in a specific direction, however it all added up to the point where he felt, I need to move this player at this time. and he does, well, then I think you can look at any other team and the capability they have of making a better offer. Well, I would describe an offer of the Eagles' second-round pick in next year's draft and a swap of a fourth and a sixth as better than Tennessee's offer. So I would think that if I had those two offers to look at, and I'm Terry Fontenot, well, here's the Eagles' offer, here's Tennessee's offer. Which do I think is the better offer? Well, I think the Eagles will actually probably on paper look worse than second round. Well, I should take this one. Am I going to say, no, I'm not going to take them because I play the Eagles week one?
First of all, I didn't say that. I didn't say they didn't trade them to the Eagles because they're playing them in week one. I don't know where you're getting that, number one. Number two, are you telling me there's been take the names out of it. You're the son of a general manager. Yeah. Take the names out of it. You're telling me there's not a general manager in professional sports that wasn't able to get a deal done, didn't put a better option on the table, and for whatever reason, the other side said, "Nah, I'm going to go in a different direction." Might be, I brought up the Sixers. Might be because Houston had some personal animosity to Daryl Morey. It happens all the time, Joe.
Well, I agree with theirs, but then I guess I'll make it a question for you. What would be the reason if the Eagles, and we can just look at it and agree that the Eagles put a superior offer on the table? I'm not saying they did.
They put a superior offer on the table. I'm saying
they could have.
They could have. They could have put a first-round pick on the table.
Right.
They could have done anything they wanted. I mean, this is parsing of significant interest. Yes, if you're going to define significant interest is they had to put down a better second-round pick or a first-round pick to get Julio Jones, you could say they didn't have significant interest.
That's my point.
Yeah, but my point is you're not necessarily right because they wanted the guy. They wanted to bring him in here. They had a limitation. They weren't able to get it done. Why did they have a limitation? Because of his age, because of his contract. It doesn't, Jody, again, I will say to you as the son of a general manager, did your dad say, I'm going this player no matter what? I mean, that's bad GMing.
No kidding.
Yeah. So you have a limit. Doesn't mean he wasn't interested. Did he acquire everybody he wanted to acquire?
No, not even close.
Yeah.
But I don't think he ever took a lesser deal just because of it was.
He never took a lesser deal. He never took a lesser deal for whatever reason. Could be money, could be age, could be contract, could be something he knew personally about the player. He never took a lesser deal for any reason.
When he shopped the player, he tried to make the best deal that he could at all times. I firmly believe that. I think all general managers try and do that.
But what is the definition of best deal? Age comes into it. Contract comes into it. Situation comes into it. Where are we? Look.
And in this hypothetical one that we've been putting up, it's a lot easier because we're looking at two separate deals that are basically drawn right along the same lines. We know what Tennessee gave up, and this is the point that I've been trying to make all along. In my opinion, this is just my opinion, if the Eagles weren't willing to put a better deal on the table than Tennessee's, which I don't think was an outrageous payment, then yes, I reject your use of the term. They had serious interest in it.
Wasn't my
if they had serious interest.
Wasn't my statement. That's what someone in the league told me.
Well, then I refute that person's statement.
Number two, when it comes to Julio Jones, I don't even think the Eagles should have had interest in him. In my opinion, I don't think they should have even made a phone call because he's not a fit for him at this particular time. So my opinion doesn't matter. That's what a league source told me they had significant interest. The only reason I brought this up is because when I was talking to Scott and when I talked to other people, they do this every year. That's the only reason I brought this up, because they go down the same rabbit hole of bringing in aging veteran players. But we have a young player coming up after the break, Jed.
Yes, we're going to talk to Colin Thompson, see what he thinks of Julio Jones coming to the Eagles. Probably not much. Well, he might have, because he's playing in the division against Julio's Falcons. Colin Thompson from the Carolina Panthers, tight end, is going to join us next here on Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.